Hello, hello. Am I audible? Can anyone just type in the chat box yes or no? Okay, okay, fine, fine. Thank you. So we'll just wait for some other students to join the meeting, and within 1 or 2 minutes, we'll just start today's lecture. Yesterday, we have gone through the syllabus part. What are the things involved in this subject? What are the different objectives and as well as the outcome of this subject? And yesterday, we have gone through some of the simple and basic parts. So around 26 participants have joined already. Continuing. So we'll be continuing today as well related to the basics. So yesterday we have seen what are the different things related to the structures, what are the different type of structures and what we need to do when we have to do the analysis or even the design part. What are the things to be keep in mind while designing, or what are the things to be keep in mind while analyzing the structure? Structures when we're going to analyze, so it will depend upon the type of the structure, what kind of structure it is there, and what are the forces acting on it as well. As apart from it, we are going to study the other things as well today. When yesterday we have gone through the connection part. Yes, so now let us start. Around 30 participants have joined. Uh, so I suppose you might be able to see this presentation, PPT slides. We'll go through some of the basics as well today too. And okay, so yesterday we have gone through different type of structures as well, and we have seen what is meant by fixed connection, what is meant by hinge connection, or what is meant by roller connection, and some of the things related to the SWBMD. So fixed connection, you can see this is the beam fixed connection where we used to do the connection. This is related to the steel part. Similarly, this kind of thing, the connection is made between beam and column, and this is considered to be the fixed as well. So this concept you know it in the strength of material. Basically, whenever there is a bending in the member. In that case, there is a compression in the top portion while there will be the tension in the bottom portion, and between middle part there will be the neutral axis. And because of this, there will be the stresses developed in that beam. In the upper portion, you will have the compressive stresses, while in the bottom portion, the tensile stresses have been developed. So tensile stresses have been developed here, while this is called as the neutral axis, and this one is the compressive stress. So this is how that element will perform if it is in bending. So what are the factors mostly influence the deflection? So what are the things? If you just look at what is the maximum deflection, so maximum deflection in case of the simply supported beam subjected to point load at the middle portion will have this PL cube by 48 EI. So what is the major part? What is the load acting on it? What is the intensity of it? And then what is the distance between the supports, or you can say the L part, this is L, and then you will have whether that what kind of material you are using. So what is the elastic modulus of the material? Okay, E will vary whether that is whether it is a concrete structure or steel structure or composite structure or any other kind of structure. And similarly, I, moment of inertia, it depends upon the depth or weight of the beam, or you can say what is the cross section of that particular beam. So depend upon the cross section of the beam, your yes, moment of inertia will vary, and depending on that, all those factors, so delta max or the deflection will vary, and this is all is very much needed if we are going to do the kind of deflection. So these are some of the elastic modulus of the material. If you just look at this structural steel, it's 200 gigapascal. Titanium, aluminum, concrete, you know, it's 21 gigapascal and other things as well. Similarly, yield strength of the material. So yield strength of the material, what we most of the time come across, regular structural steel, it ranges from 350 to 450 MPa. That is the yield strength. If you are using the concrete and the compressive stress, you may get about 70 MPa. So, moment of inertia, most of the time, what we usually see is the IXX, okay? IXX moment of inertia of rectangle about an axis parallel to the neutral axis. That is how axis is called as. And it basically depend upon the cross-sectional geometry and not depend upon the material properties. So whenever we want to calculate moment of inertia of a beam, any kind of material, in that case, just mind it well, it will depend upon what is the cross-section. Okay, whether that material is of the concrete or whether that material is of the steel, that doesn't matter. Moment of inertia will totally depend upon what is the cross section, whether what is the length, width, what is the depth of it, what is the thickness of the flange or web. As you know, suppose this is called as a particularly truss structure, and if you apply a load on it, yes, you will have the compression part in the top portion while you will have the tension part in the bottom portion. So only tension or compression forces are developed in pin connected truss members. So when we talk about the truss, so you will have only either that member will be either in the compression or that would be in tension. So such kind of the trusses where you can see that particularly it's a heavy steel structure, and the different members they have been welded or bolted here, bolted kind of connections have been there. And then you can go ahead with the frame kind of structure here. Simple frame, you can say this is the simple frame where because we are also going to analyze the frame structure, wherein you will be able to see there will be this kind of, because you can see this is a frame kind of structure. In that case, there would be the lateral forces acting on it apart from the vertical forces. So lateral forces will be acting on that frame, and because of that there will be the deflection, and that kind of thing would be in this member, horizontal member as well as the vertical member, and that we need to calculate whenever we are going to do it, while we go for the calculation parts and the analysis part. Whenever we'll start with this calculation part, I'll suggest you to have with you a notepad as well as the pen with you, and whenever I just start doing the calculations, you should also do the same thing. Otherwise, see this kind of presentation kind of thing, they are hardly for the introductory part. When once we start with the problem, yes, you should uh, calculate with me. Whenever I'll just do the calculation, yes, so you should also do it on your own at your place, and that's very essential. So, so this kind of frame structure you can see most of the time if you just see the steel structure. So, in the steel structure, most preferably there is a frame kind of thing, or frame structures are there. So it depends whether that is a one bay frame or two bay frame, or whether they are having how many legs they are having. According to that, that structure varies. And even if they have the story, one story or two story frame would be there, and it again will have to carry out the analysis depending on the load which are going to act vertically as well as the horizontally. Horizontally, it means that most preferably wind load which acts horizontally, or if there is a dead load, in that case that will act in the vertical direction, vertically downward direction, that would be acting. And what would be the displacement in that case, that will need to check. So these are kind of the connections in between beam and column. So this is how that if suppose the lateral load is acting, in that case your frame will behave like this because of the lateral load. So you can see if lateral load is too heavy, you can see this has been deformed fully. Since this is the masonry one, so because of that, it has been deformed very badly. That is called as racking as well. So in such cases, you need to put such kind of shear panels. So that is a different part, but that can be prevented. Shear panel in the direction perpendicular to whatever the wind is acting. So that is possible in that case. So that kind of thing have been provided afterwards, and that which will prevent. So this is how most of the time triangulation part is there. Triangulation, it means that you have to provide certain diagonal members so that such kind of racking, or because of the lateral loads, the deflection would be more in this particular first diagram. And now if you provide this uh, particularly diagonal member in between, that will prevent, or that will have the proper effect. And so it depends upon if you are going to provide a proper diagonal member. In that case, just like here in the H the diagram, you can easily see that the formation which was earlier in this A diagram, that has been decreased. So this is how why most of the time this triangulation part is been provided. More preferably, you can see in the high-rise building. So in high-rise buildings, you will be able to see such kind of things or diagonal members, so that that racking part, or because of the horizontal, more preferably wind load, it should not deform badly, and that's the reason the triangulation part most of the time is been provided. Triangulation part, it means that we used to provide the diagonal members. Now you can see this thing. Post and beam structure, beam simply rest on top of the column, while rigid frame structure, beam and column are rigidly jointed. So there are two things. This one, if you just look at the beam, which is simply resting on the top of a column. So columns are separate out and beam is separate out. So whenever vertical load is acting on it, so preferably this beam will deflect more. But when we talk about the rigid frame structure, rigid, why we call that it as rigid? Because beam as well as the column, they have been rigidly jointed. They have been rigidly joined. In that case, the whole structure will act against that particularly load, and that will be resistant to it. So column will come into the picture for resisting this forces, horizontal forces, as well as to prevent the deflection. So that is called as a at the base of the column, that the particular thing which is developed, and that is called as a thrust. Thrust in the sense, because since particularly load is acting, say this is the load which is acting vertically downward, and because of that, this particularly at the joint of the location of the column, the base, you can be able to see the thrust, or thrust in the sense reactions, more preferably you can say, that will get developed. So you can say that that will get developed at the foundation level. So these are called as a rigid frame structure. Rigid frame structure because the beam and column are properly jointed. They are not just, the beam is not directly resting on the column. Beam column connections have been properly done, and that is the thing. This is called as a rigid frame connection. So this is also the rigid frame. Cantilever part, as you know, if we are going to provide a cantilever, means one end will be a fixed, and at the other end there is a load acting on it. In that case, you will have the moment at this particular portion or at the connection part. This is called as simple cantilever. So cantilever part is not designed properly. You can see the failure over here. So it has to be analyzed properly. If analyzed is properly done, in that case, the design is also properly made. So this is how the failure may occur. Say tensile failure as well as the compressive failure, both are occurring here in the cantilever portion. So these are some of the friction beams and what is the maximum load or what is the minimum load. So now if we just look at this kind of arc, so suppose the structure, if that is in tension, so this is the first diagram. It is called as a funicular line. Basically, this kind of thing is there. The shape assumed by a flexible cable under an applied loading is called the funicular shape for that loading. Suppose that funicular shape for a uniformly distributed loading, it could be like this. Similarly, if the structure in this structure both are in the tension, but if you just look at this structure, this is in compression, and that is the reason. Say earlier this structure was like this, and now this has become. If you want to make it analyze it for the design part, compression part, more preferably, you have to invert the shape. So flexible cable under an applied loading will shape. So similarly, this is the thing which is the arc type of the structure. So inverting the tension fail, which we do, we have to, this was earlier in the, this was the tension and we inverted. So that will yield a shape that carries load by axial compression. So understand it very well. In arc, most of the time the load, what is the thing, that is a axial compression. So the common arc shown here. So cable suspension, as you are going to study it as well. So such kind of cable suspension bridge is already in the Nagpur, as one of you has already pointed out yesterday. So you'll have the cable suspension bridges and what is how that particular thing will have the effect of analysis. So these are basically called as a funicular structures, as you are seeing here. This is called as a funicular one or arc type, though that is not in our syllabus. Funicular is not in syllabus. This is also funicular inserted structures called as. So this is a arc, a breach, wherein basically how that particular thing will look like. And this one is called as a shell structure. So plates and shells, and these are the basically most of the time covers in your masters. How that particularly behavior or analysis is carried out for the plates as well as the shells is to be done. These are nothing but again the shell type of the structure. Again comes under the funicular part. Why we say it funicular? Because whether it is some of the things is there. So if you do not properly give particular things to it, so there can be failures as well. So, what are the different type of loads which are going to act, and this load will terms into the structural form, and then structural form will get terms into the element which is the primary load, and because of that various supporting members are there, and this is how this foundation it goes to. So load directly goes to the foundation. So what are the different type of the loads? Basically, general building codes are there, building design loading, and then there are the type of load which we call as a dead load. Why we call it as a dead load? Because the weight of various structural members are there, and weight of any object that are attached to the structure. So that comes under the dead load. Similarly, live load, if any kind of load which is varying in the magnitude as well as the location, then we call it as the live load. And when we go for the building load, so it depends upon the purpose for which the building is designed, whether it is a public building or whether it is a residential building. And accordingly, loadings are generally uh, taken into consideration. So suppose that particular live load may vary from 2 kilonewton per meter square to 12 kilonewton per meter square, depend upon whether if it is an assembly hall, whether it is an office building or residential building, or whether in the residential building, whether it is a hotel or dwelling places, or if we talk about the office spaces, whether they are offices or lobbies. If we talk about the assembly areas and theater, then in that case, so if we talk about the residential part, so we can consider it as from 2 kilonewton per meter square to 5 kilonewton per meter square. So that is the live load which varies in magnitude as well as the location. Similarly, there are the bridge loads as well, highway bridge loads, because of the traffic, you know it very well, and it depends upon the truck loading, and whether that truck loading, whether it is a two axle truck or whether it is a other one. Similarly, railway bridge loads are there. So loading depend upon the uh, modern train considered to be 320 kilonewton, which is acting as a axle of the engine. And then there is the impact load. Why? Because of the moving vehicles, there can be the impact on the structures. So that impact loads are also some of the time comes under consideration. And then you know it wind load is there, and for the wind load you'll have to consider the different the codes, more specifically IS 800, IS 875, part 3 basically. Then there are sometimes you have to consider snow loads as well. Earthquake load, for earthquake load you can just refer IS 1893, 13920. So basically because of the earthquake, that load produces, and those loading have the intensity or interaction in terms of the ground motion as well as the response characteristics, and whatever the magnitude is there, so that magnitude depend upon the amount as well as the type of that particular ground acceleration. So to study it, basically IS 1893 is the best part. Then there are the hydrostatic as well as the soil pressure. If we just talk about the water tank, then you'll have this water hydrostatic pressure. Then again, if you're talking about the retaining wall, ships, dam, in that case, you'll have the uh, load coming out from the soil or the granular material, since you have to keep or retain those things, because of that the particular loading is going to act on it. And then there are other natural loads also, and that considers to be the blast, effect of blast, temperature changes, or settlement of the foundation. So it depending upon that, you will have to do the structural design as well. And analysis of the statically determinate structures, or what is meant by determinate structure, what is meant by indeterminate structures, and what is the difference between those two, why we call it as a statically static, as we know, we have seen what is meant by static, what is meant by dynamic. So statically indeterminate, statically determinate. So that we will cover it in the next lecture. And also we will solve some of the small problems in that case. So in the next lecture onwards, just keep a notepad with you and a pen. Okay. So if you have doubt, in that case, you can just write down in the chat box. Otherwise, just write down your name and then you can leave the meeting. चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये नाव लिहा, आठवणीने नाव लिहा आणि त्याच्यानंतरच मीटिंग लेफ्ट करा. चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये नाव लिहून झालं असेल तर देन यू कॅन लिव्ह द मीटिंग. Okay, so I'll end up the meeting now. Thank you.